Thank you, Alex. Hello, everybody, for the welcome. For the sake of the recording, this is the Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust Climate Action and Accounting Special Interest Group. This is the Standards Working Group. It's the 25th of March 2025. We always start by referring to the Code of Conduct and to the antitrust policy. I thought maybe we can just bring it on screen once and just sort of cast our eyes over it. So the address is lfdecentralizedtrust.org/code-of-conduct. It's a fairly short document. So here's the let's say the gist of it. There are a few fairly intuitive conduct rules, and then hopefully you never get to the point where you have to write a document to use any one of these terms, but there is a description of such. Interesting to stay on topic is part of the Code of Conduct. Okay, I thought we can just maybe for once bring that on screen, and then the other one that we always refer to is the antitrust policy, and this is also still short, but a little bit of a more complex document. The point of an antitrust policy is that there is that it doesn't give rise to a situation where there is collusion between major players in the market that engage in things like price fixing or any related behavior. So you'll see that all of the things that are forbidden are related to things that may lead to market manipulation of some sort, whether that is prices or features or supplies, or whether that is bids or transactions or things or the like. I think intuitively we understand what that means, but there's quite a detailed description and very specific things that we must not do. But I don't think this forum where we are participating is a specific danger for any one of those things, but I thought maybe once a year we can actually bring the document on screen. Okay. In terms of our agenda, we had these two standing items. I must say I haven't spent any time on this in the past week. It's been a bit busy on my side.
Yeah, I started creating some examples for us that we can, I thought maybe if I can create a few examples ahead of time and then we can review them together, that may be more useful.
Yeah. I think that's a great thanks, Alex. I actually called you on WhatsApp earlier today just to
Oh, you did?
But it wasn't much earlier, but I wanted to call you even earlier. But I'm very glad you did that. So maybe you can take the screen and then we can take it.
Apparently I've been logged out of my WhatsApp. Okay. Okay, let me share the screen. Screen to share. Okay, can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
All right. So I thought to start off, instead of like jumping directly to examples for specific to Aya, let's obviously when we want to release these 4 ontologies, so we should have examples for each of them. And anyways, as we work through the examples for the, I want to say, the three ontologies, well, I mean, the smaller ontologies that will help us build up to how we combine all of them in finally in IR. So I started with.
So we refer to them as complementary ontology.
Yeah, complementary complementary ontologies. Yeah, whatever. I'm not. I don't have any hard opinions on terms there. But okay, so I started with the information communication ontology. I think this is the one that we will use least of all the smaller ones. But anyways, so just to refresh our minds, in the communications ontology, information communication ontology, we have a thing called a communication event. We have information, which is that which being communicated. Then we have a communication party.
Which is a
So it's yes. So it's like it's a complement to the agent idea. So we have a communication party. So, then we have a medium, which is a thing that is altered itemly permanently to preserve the information either during communication or transfer, whatever. We have a format, and we have protocols, and then a communication event has a sender property, which is fulfilled by a communication party. It also has a recipient property, which is fulfilled by a communication party. Then a communication event has a medium. A communication event also has a format. A protocol governs a communication event, and conversely or inversely, a communication event is governed by, I think actually, yeah, is governed by a protocol. Where were we now? Okay, and then an information, a communication event transmits obviously information. Okay, and then they are just the inverses of those properties. And then, so it was interesting. I asked ChatGPT, like I gave ChatGPT this OWL file, and then I said, create examples, 2 examples for us. And I came up with 2 interesting examples. The first was Alice sending an SMS to Bob, and the second one was like a weather station service kind of broadcasting a weather update to their subscribers. So they were like, I like the ideas. They were like, I want to say, quite interesting. But ChatGPT really struggled to, even though I prompted it, like, so I gave it the task, please create these examples for blah blah from this R file. And then when it struggled at first to distinguish accurately between medium, format, and protocol. And then I was like, okay, thank you for examples, they are great, but you did not accurately distinguish between medium, format, and protocol. Here are the definitions, like, of each of those terms. Please update the examples. And even then, it struggled to get it right. So okay, that was interesting. But just anyways, so okay, the first example: Alice invites Bob to a birthday party by sending him an SMS message. So this Alice invites Bob to a birthday party is a communication event. Obviously, that will be. I mean, in real world, you will have a proper ID for that thing, but for now we just call it that. So it's a communication event. It transmits the birthday invitation message, which is here. So the birthday invitation message is of type information, and okay, obviously it's transmitted by this one. The sender of this communication event is Alice. The recipient of this communication event is Bob. The medium was radio waves. The format was plain text. Oopsie, plain text. And the protocol was the SMS protocol. So obviously, examples, I mean, in real life cases, you can, a communication event can adhere to multiple protocols. For example, the TCP/IP protocol is actually a suite of protocols. So at any point in time, a communication event that, for example, uses TCP/IP will actually be adhering to multiple protocols, whichever ones of them are relevant. So, but in any case, I thought in the case of keeping these examples simple, let's just have one of each.
But there is no, I mean, there's no problem in terms of the RDF JSON LD format, just to add is governed by.
No. You can add, in my understanding, you can add as many is governed by lines there as necessary and appropriate. So, but okay, so this was the communication event. Then the information that was transmitted was the birthday invitation message. Obviously, we can expand that with some like content, but it's not necessary right now. Then we have Alice as a communication party and Bob as a communication party. We have the radio waves as the medium, plain text, SMS protocol. So that was the first example, and I thought it was really okay. Like it kind of really, yeah, gives you an idea of how to use it. Then the second example was this weather update from the weather station. So in lieu of a proper human unfriendly ID, we just have that there, weather update event as the ID for the communication event. Then it transmits a weather forecast update, which is this thing here. The sender is obviously the weather station service, which is a communication party. The recipient is some subscriber. Actually, there will be multiple recipients. I mean, obviously, if there are multiple subscribers, there will be multiple. We can probably actually name this. Let's name this subscriber 7854, and then let's just make it 7854. All right. The medium was fiber optic cable. The format was HTML, and it was governed by the HTTP protocol, for example. Yeah, and then this was basically what you need for the second example. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Does it make sense? Do you agree with these examples?
I think it's also nice in the L form. I mean, it's gonna be very. I mean, if we let's say we make the L of we just host the L as it does, and whatever RDF, whatever suitable format, but add this to the add the examples to the documentation. It's quite intuitive how it works. Can I just ask something about the notation?
Yeah.
Let's say the hash communication event or hash birthday invitation, that means it refers to an identity, an identifiable thing that is identified somewhere else in this file.
Yeah, that was my understanding as well. I was actually surprised. Like, so this is something we can delve into, and maybe Lucia will know a bit better about this. But so ChatGPT gave it to me with these things prefixed. I initially thought like, you would only have the hash in front of like a class that is defined in thing, and then this will be like just Alice, like without the hash, because this is now a named individual. Oopsie. So I thought it would be like this and this. Oopsie, not this, but this. But for some reason it had it there, and I thought, you know what? For now, I think let's just move on. But it was interesting because so I did this one yesterday, and then I did impact on yesterday, and then today I did the examples for the claim on, and today, very interestingly, it gave me this with a like it instead of the hashes, it had like colons in front of everything. I was like, what? Why is it different today than yesterday? But anyways, so yeah, Christian, I am not sure which is correct. When is it correct? I'm not sure, but that's something.
Okay, I think for our purposes, it's fine. When we publish, we should just check that it's actual valid L.
Yeah. We should definitely.
But I mean, you get the idea that there's a thing, there's an ID here defined as Bob, and a I just want to ask if a communication party is always an agent. It must
No. Remember, we are not saying this is not mapped to IR. In the hierarchy, IR uses this. This does not use IR.
Okay.
So this one does not know about IR agent at this point in time. So a communication party is just where is communication? It's just a thing. It's just an owl thing.
Is it an owl thing?
Because it can actually be a computer. I mean, if one computer transmits information to another computer, then it's really just a thing. It's not a human agent.
Medium. If it just passes through, it's a medium. If it acts, it's an agent.
Yeah, but if we have a sensor that transmits information, it's not a human agent transmitting that information. It's a sensor transmitting that information.
Okay, so maybe they are okay, fine. No, I agree with you, Alex. In other words, I will use this. We will enforce the let's say the user of IR will say, don't give me stuff that's not an agent. We'll enforce it on that.
Yes, the user of IR, IR will say that a communication party must be an agent. An owl agent or something. If they want to.
Yes. No, that's fine. Okay, great. Okay, I think this one
in context where it's relevant.
Yes.
I mean,
okay, great. I think that's how you use these things. Okay, this is good.
So this is the information. Yes, Alfonso.
No, go ahead. Go through all the time. I'll wait for the end.
All right. So then the next one I did, and this one was yesterday also, was the impact ontology. And just to refresh our minds, in impact ontology, it's for describing how events impact things. And we actually have thing, I want to say with a capital T, defined here as a subclass of our thing, in a sense that the things we are interested in this ontology are things that have the property has state. So you have thing, then you have states, and things have states. A state has a temporal location. A temporal location is a thing. I mean, we still need to properly define that. I think we have it defined in IR. I just haven't added the definition here yet. But a state also has modality. Then a state is defined by an indicator. Where is an indicator? Indicator is here somewhere. There is indicator, which is a thing. An event impacts a thing, and this is an event. An event can comprise other events, and then you have impact, which is a subclass of event, with impact being an event with an identifiable provenance, so you know exactly what caused that event. Then you can call it an impact because just remember, an event is defined as the change in state of something. Otherwise, I mean, that's So events and impact.
Standing in a forest, does it make a sense?
Exactly. So events and impacts have a state A and a state B, and an impact has a provenance.
Can I ask you about that state A and state B?
Yes.
If it has a state and it's a different time, and
yeah, it just made sense. It was useful. I remembered at some point there was a reason why I thought it was useful to clearly distinguish between state A and state B.
but Isn't
Because
that the
you need to have two states. And so,
yes,
if you don't say explicitly has state A and has state B, how do you, well, okay, I guess there are rules
I state
in
at
our,
time A and at time, at this time and at that time. At this
yeah,
time
but a
and at that time.
state has a temporal location. So,
Yes. In other words, it's a state, and then there are just two state objects. They don't have to be
yes.
of the class state A, they're just of the class state.
No, it's not. This is not. There is not a class state A. There is not a class state
Yeah,
A.
okay,
It has
fine.
state A
Okay,
is
great.
just a
Okay.
predicate of type state. Like it is not. It's not a class in just state.
Okay.
And then indicator, and then processes. We had a series of interrelated things. Okay, so then again, I asked ChatGPT. I gave it this our file and said make 2 examples. Yeah, what was the second one? I can't remember what was the second one. But the first one he came up with was there's this town, Riverside Town, and there's been a flood in the town. Now the electricity infrastructure is like damaged of the town. So you want to this is quite original. Well, original. I mean, I like it anyway. So we went with it. So there's this thing which has a state. And in this instance, the thing that we are concerned with is the electricity distribution infrastructure of Riverside Town. Okay, that is the thing that has a state, and of which the state is impacted by the flood. The event in this case is obviously the flood of, let's say it happened in March this year, flood of March 2025. And then you have the impact of that event on that thing. So the impact of the flood of March, blah, blah, on the EDI of Riverside Town. And then impact must always have 2 states. So there's a state before and the state after. Well, state A and state B. State A was the state before the flood. State B was the state after the flood. State before the flood. Okay, so it's of type state. It has a temporal location. In this instance, I just named it day before the flood. So it's there, and obviously we can, there its value, it's this day. It was on the 13th of March at 9 a.m. And then there's a state after the flood, which also, I mean, is a flood state, and has a temporal location, which was the day after the flood. For measurement purposes, the day after the flood was March the 15th at 9 a.m. Okay, and then, so the modality in both cases, in this case, is real. It's not counterfactual, it's real. So day before, this was the state, day after, this is the state. And the indicator that defines the state is this EDI state indicator, which is obviously an indicator with the definition that indicator for the state of Riverside Town's electricity should be expressed as the percentage of connections that are live. Whatever that means. I mean, we can obviously, but simplicity's sake. So the percentage of connections that are live, the unit of measure as a percentage, and it has to have a rationale. I didn't flesh that out. Anyways. So I want to type in there, it makes sense, but that's not going to fly. Okay, so state after the flood, state before the flood, the defining indicator is that thing, and its value was 100%. Like Riverside Town's distribution infrastructure on the day before the flood was absolutely perfect. All connections were live. But the day after the flood, the value of this indicator was just 32.4%. So wrapping this in an impact is then obviously this thing that we come back to this named individual. So the impact is this and is defined by state A, state B, and the provenance was that. Yeah, what do you guys think?
Did you So the impact is the difference. Is per
Yes, the
definition.
impact is the difference between those two states, like the state A and the state B. Whether that's, yeah.
Is this the answer of ChatGPT to the prompt where you referred an impact ontology to be used, for an example? Is this the answer?
I had to modify the answer because it wasn't that accurate, but it was, yeah, I can actually show you guys.
Okay, no, but so you worked on top of it.
Let me actually show you guys here. So I asked it, here's a alpha for an impact ontology. Please create 2 examples that demonstrate how this ontology can be applied. And then it was like, okay, so there just shows that it's reading through it, and then some, and then now that, so okay, yeah. Example 1 was the flood impacting a town, and flood 2. Oh, this was the second example, was the new policy impacting carbon emissions. And I was like, that is, I mean, yes, it certainly, the impact ontology should be able to capture those things, but it is nuanced. So maybe too advanced example for, but yeah, we can always add it anyways. And then I asked it to actually pack it out as named examples in the OWL file, which is what it came up with then. So yeah, this was it. That was, I mean, yeah. So I basically just, I mean, conceptually, most of it was its response. So it actually understood the ontology, I would say, which is really great.
Yeah.
So,
well, since it's meant for computers to understand, one would hope so. But,
yeah.
But yeah, well, it's I think the interesting thing about ontologies, I mean, the semantic web was sort of, you know, it was there all the time, like for decades, but it was hardly ever used. But I think in terms of communicating accurately with computers, that, you know, that idea gets a new lease of life now with the LLMs.
Yes.
So I just want to ask you, what is this format called?
This is just the usual OWL format. This is an OWL file. So I've been editing the .owl file and just adding examples as named individuals to the OWL file.
Because I know there are many OWL formats, and I just wondered what you would call this one. Well, it looks like it's RDF.
Yeah, it's RDF. It looks like I mean, let me use. It's interesting. It made a mistake. Would you like examples? Yeah, it's RDF.
Okay.
But this is, but this is not Turtle. This is just RDF.
That's RDF. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I just want to orient.
And then the one I did today. So okay, yeah, we can still add a second example there. Maybe I'll try to do that somewhere within the next week or next 2 weeks or so. Things are also a bit busy on my side, but anyways. And then I did the claim ontology today. So just to refresh our minds. So the claim ontology is about describing claims and their substantiation. So you have a claim, which is a defeasible statement about a thing. And then you have a claimant, so it's a person making that claim. And a claim has a subject, a predicate, and an object. The subject is the thing about which the claim is. The predicate is like the characteristic, attribute, or relationship asserted about that subject, and then the object is obviously the target value associated with the predicate. And then you have a substantiation, which is a thing presented in support of the truthfulness of a claim. Identity claim as a subclass of claim. So specifically in this case, a statement by claimant about their identity. And then attestation. I wrangled a bit with this one today. I will I will tell you guys later why I wrangle a bit with this. Initially, we had attestation as a subclass of claim. But in a certain sense, an attestation is more a substantiation. And when we look at the example, we can talk more about this. But anyway, so yeah, an attestation is an indefeasible statement, usually formal, made by an entity according to which they have witnessed or been presented with sufficient evidence to consider a specific claim made by another entity as truthful or accurate. And then obviously, so as you have claim and claimant, you have attestation and attester. Yeah, I was looking into when to use attester, when to use attestor, and when to use attestator. Anyways, the internet recommended attester in this case. And then also just report as a subclass of a claim. So claim may point to some specification, nothing new there, blah, 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 blah. And then just all the predicates. So claim is made by a claimant, and attestation is made by an attester. I actually asked ChatGPT what is the correct verb to use in conjunction with attestation, and it almost wrote an entire paper about that. So, and just to say in the end, it's make is a good one. So yeah, then we have a subject, predicate, object. Oh, interesting. In the case of a claim, the subject is anything like the that which follows the has subject. Predicate is a subject, which is just a thing. But in the case of an attestation, the subject is a claim. So that was yeah. But anyways, and then substantiation supports a claim, and inversely, a claim is supported by. That should actually be is supported by. Is supported by. Let me just fix that. Okay. Okay, so then, yeah, so again, I asked ChatGPT for two examples. The first one I came up with was Alice making an identity claim, and the second one was Bob making a claim about his location on a certain date. So I don't know what troubles Bob got into, but apparently he needed an alibi. But okay, so the first example, you have Alice, who's a claimant. And then the claim of interest is an identity claim, which is made by Alice, obviously, as the claimant. The subject is Alice herself, or I don't know, this is interesting. We can either say Alice's identity or can say Alice. It will depend. We should think about that maybe. But in this case, it went with Alice, and the predicate is has email address. And the object is in Alice's email address, so it reads Alice has email address this, and this claim is supported by an email verification report, and then it made this thing like the email verification report is a type report, and that is pretty much the first example. Yeah, we can.
This is I think if we think of verifiable credentials and verifiable presentations, I mean, you can describe that system in these terms.
Yes.
Do they also use the term attestation?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Well, in a sense, okay, so verifiable credentials as they are implemented by W3 consortium are usually they are called verifiable credentials because they should be verifiable almost programmatically.
Yes.
So in that sense, attestations don't really fit into the picture because an attestation in this case is but it depends. We can look into that if you want to, Christian.
Now, I'm just also thinking of the trust over IP, You remember the stuff that
Yeah, that's the other foundation together with us. LFDT.
Kyle?
Kyle talked about. Yeah, I think it's just something to think about. I mean, I haven't looked at that stuff for a while, but maybe that's just something we should in future just sort of test how this articulates, and maybe a small tweak here and there can maybe it's already fully describable. It would be interesting to maybe
So the term they use mostly in verifiable credentials is proof. So where we use substantiation and attestation, they use the term proof. But I think
where they mean the cryptographic proof.
yes, mostly.
With,
Oh, no, Alfonso is shaking his head. He says
Yeah,
no.
that's, no. It is the proof, it's cryptographic because basically is the did. Everything
Yes.
comes down to a did.
yes.
Okay. But
Yeah.
I want you to continue because I'm quite confused and I want to understand. Okay, so I'll let you go through all your work, Alex, please.
Okay. Well, we only have one example left. I haven't got the second example for the claim ontology was Bob making a claim about his location. So the claimant is Bob. The claim in question is just claim 2 for now. It's made by Bob. Now, again, there are different ways in which we can do the has subject and has predicate. So we can either say has subject is Bob, and then has predicate is was in location on date. This is what ChatGPT did.
Yeah.
Or we can say subject is Bob's location
Yep.
on 20 March 2025, and then has predicate equals was or equals.
No, because then if you do that, then you don't differentiate subject, predicate, and object. The location component and the time and space component in this case is the predicate, and it is about Bob. So I think like it's there, it's correct. So don't load predicates into the subject. So if you say Bob's location, you mean Bob predicate has location.
On a specific date. But anyways,
but that is just a in fact you can say there is a special predicate that says time and place together, or you can say the claim is two predicates. In other words, that the claim contained about Bob was he was there, and
the reason why I'm a little bit, well, I'm not yet 100% convinced about this is if you make a claim about someone, like their name or their date of birth or something, that is something really about them. Like kind of defining them or describing them as a person. But when you deal with something like where were they at some point in time, I mean that is a concept that is not defining of the person. It is defining or relates to their location, not them. Which is why I'm like, are we sure we are not really describing Bob? We are really describing Bob's location on 20 March 2025.
Well, to come to our
not
terminology,
Bob.
We are describing a property, an attribute, which is temporarily, which undergoes changes from from time to time, like where you are. But you can always say, and you can create those predicates to mean has ever been to, or is there now, or is there on this specific time, or whatever. But those are all predicates. Those, so I think we should remember the subject is typically a reference to a thing.
Yeah, something with
To
an
that
ID.
thing, something with an ID. So it's Bob. And then the
And you
predicate
won't say
comes
Bob.
from some. Yes,
Okay.
you'll give some the reference to some IRI or URI that represents Bob in the net.
All right. Okay, that makes sense. Otherwise, you will have to have an ID for Bob's location on a specific date and another ID for Bob's location on another date. And that's just going to not work.
And
Okay,
yeah,
so
that's good.
okay, you've convinced me. Fine. So yeah, okay, and then the value of that was he was in London on 20 March 2025. And as a substantiation, we have airline ticket, blah, 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 that supports this claim too. But we also have Jake, which is Bob's friend. And Jake made an attestation. Jake is an attester that made this attestation in form of testimony in support of claim 2, and says, like, yeah, I, as Jake, can confirm that Bob was in London on 20 March 2025 because he was there with me, something like that. And yeah, this is if you anyways, maybe we shouldn't delve into this too deep, but I guess that's the idea.
Alfonso, did it increase your confusion?
I'm
I mean, this is the last example, so you can. I haven't gotten to examples yet, so you please share your confusion with us.
yes. My confusion basically is the following. You found this other 4 ontologies that are very relevant to our work, okay? Because they provide like a larger framework that we can use for our IA. Is that correct? I'm going to try to follow my own chain of thought.
Okay, so
Found or dissected out.
Yeah, I didn't find the information communication ontology, I didn't find the impact ontology, and I didn't find the claim ontology. I extracted them from our original larger IR ontology, which had all these things in them. The only ontology that I mentioned was, which I did find already existing, was the legal rule ML ontology. So for that one, I am not going to create an R file. I'm not going to create examples because all of that already exists for that ontology. Yeah, these 3 ontologies were like extracted from our larger IR ontology.
Okay, so this is an extraction
Yes.
of IA. Okay. Using the reference of the other ones that you found relevant. And they use find relevant in terms of being pertinent rather than finding them in the drawer, okay, top of the desk. So I've been struggling to understand whether you're following something that it was on those ontologies, or it is on those ontologies, and then you're trying to fit within Aya. Or, as you are explaining, you are proposing this ontologies as what? As a complement of Aya? As that's what I don't understand.
Okay, so okay, let me go back to so in our meetings. Okay, so here's Aya as we used to have it until a few weeks ago before I proposed cutting it up into small ontologies. So it had all these things about claims and about information communication, like medium. Where was medium in here? This thing was somewhere. And oh, I actually started editing this already. It had all these things in that were not directly related to impact accounting. It was actually like, I mean, if you think about impact accounting, anthropogenic impact accounting, impact accounting, the business or the discipline of making claims about something that is not unique to anthropogenic impact accounting. So hosting all the classes related to claims and the verification, trying to put that inside Aya, hosting that as part of Aya, is kind of not best practice, because the whole thing of claims and making claims and the substantiations is much broader than the application to Aya, and they can be applied to many other use cases as well. So if we, I mean, semantic web principles, you rather want to reuse than redefine. But if we have now defined this claim ontology, for example, inside Aya, it will be difficult for people to who are interested in claims in general and making claims and statements about claims and stuff like that in general to find the claim ontology hidden inside Aya. So we'll most probably rather go and redefine it. This and the same goes for information communication. The whole thing of that people communicate, or that information is being communicated in communication events, and there are senders or recipients, there are medium, there are formats. It is not unique to anthropogenic impact accounting. So again, hosting the classes related to that inside Aya is not best practice, because it isn't specific to Aya. It is much broader than Aya. And should be made useful to other contexts. Yeah. So, and plus the other thing is, so apart from like making these, like apart from separation of concerns, like the principle of separation of concerns, and then also making these things useful to other use cases or scenarios or disciplines. The other thing is just, if we try to bundle all of that into Aya, Aya really becomes quite bulky and difficult to follow or difficult to understand. You don't know where to start. Yeah, I saw that, for example, when Sam and I from Tolem had to do those stuff. It's just like there's so much going on, you don't know where to start. So yeah, that was the idea. So the idea is, what is things that are not specific, classes and relationships that are not specific to anthropogenic impact accounting. We should extract them into these separate ontologies and then just use them in Aya as appropriate.
Okay, and so the examples that you presented, thank you for that explanation. I'm going to continue with my confusion, if you allow me. What you've done and presented now today is an example of abstracting those notions from Aya in the form of the other ontologies that are broader. Okay.
Yes. And then
So
next week, yeah.
So, um, hmm, wait.
So the
So
idea is now that
the old files that you've shown,
yes,
claim on impact on and infocom.
yes.
Oh, that's an interpretation that you've done with the help of ChatGPT to express those issues that we had in Aya homologated, I would use that word, or what's the concept? Yes, homologated with other ontologies.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I showed you guys today, I mean, these three files, the infocom, impact on, and claim on, I showed you guys earlier a few weeks back. So the things I tried to show today was just like examples of how these are then ontologies in themselves and can be used by other people and stuff, like as things in themselves, and also to give us then an indication of when we get to actually making use of them in Aya, which hopefully next week or the week after that we will get to examples of how of a reduced Aya then that makes use of these other ontologies.
So
Where
you're
was the other one?
actually, those three files are
Yes.
actually a description of independent ontologies
Yes.
related to a broader framework.
Independent ontologies, three independent ontologies. They just
Um,
happen to be created by us as well. Sorry, the network seems unstable.
Yes, yes. They're independent among themselves, but
Yes.
they are related to broader fields of ontologies. Okay, the information, the impact, and the ontology. So each of those three files that you created are independent ontologies located within a larger framework of existing ontology. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, probably.
So they are independent, but they are related. They are located within a conceptual framework, larger conceptual framework. Okay.
Well, the larger conceptual framework really is just like the base OWL. I want to say because they're really
They
separate
don't have
ontologies.
dependencies. They don't use any dependencies.
Yeah, they only use like so this is, for example, the claim one. It doesn't use any other ontologies. It just uses the specifications like SCORS and RDF schema and OWL and stuff like that. Same for the impact ontology. Oh, it does. The impact ontology does slot in with the provenance ontology a bit here and there. But for the most part, it's just all semantics in terms of OWL and how you write OWL, and then the same for the information communication. It doesn't really use any other ontologies. But these three, they are going to be used by Aya. So when we get to the example,
Yes, but the confusion comes from this. You are abstracting these three files from AYA, but regarding a broader context, because the initial goal was to not to have everything within AYA, because you said it's a bad practice. Okay, my fundamental question is, by you creating this independent files, how do you prevent the bad practice? Or to be more brutal, and allow me as a friend to be a devil's advocate. Okay. Aren't we repeating the same issue you correctly identify as bad practice? Aren't we repeating it just in a different formulation? How are you solving the essential issue that you raised, a bad practice, which I agree with you, and which I think it's laudable. And I thank you for doing it.
Can I try that one, Alfonso? I think the idea that you have a ontology that describes a specific domain, a specific part of of existence, for example, like communication, and that you, because part of anthropogenic impact accounting is the communication process, doesn't mean you have to have something as general as that, because communication processes happen all the time in all spheres of life. It is better in terms of the semantics to have each ontology, because we also just had all these terms: communication, medium, format, protocol, all of these things we have inside AYA, where they are actually concerning another life domain, or another, let's call it domain, which has many other uses, and which we lose nothing, because we import it with one line in that first header definition of the AYA, and we do make it available to so many more people who just want to talk about communication, which makes the whole ecosystem, I think, stronger. So I thought, yeah. So my idea is that, because these are communication information, impact and claims, they are general domains which has a broader audience that will use them, and there is, since the semantic web works like that, that you can just import and go on using without, basically, whether they are in the same L file or in another, it doesn't make so much of a difference. Maybe it is just more discoverable and almost digestible when they exist, when these things exist in somewhat smaller ontologies that cover a specific life domain. So that's how I see it. That's why I thought it's going to work.
I agree with you, and I think it's a very good idea. And thank you for all the work that has been done. I think it's very good. But what I'm saying is, the domain, what you use, the domain that has to do with communication. Okay. And there is a domain that has to do with impact, and the domain that has to do with claims. Okay. So the way excuse me, but I think more in spatial terms. These
Oh, please.
files, these 3 files are like, small pieces that our ontology Aya would use, correct? They are
Yes.
separated so that they can be identified by anyone that is interested in the pieces. But this pieces exist within a larger domain. And that's what makes them relevant to be distinguished in a separate manner, as you're doing, Alex. My question is, how do we make explicit the relationship of this piece with the larger domain that it belongs to? Because the relationship between these 3 pieces and Aya is something that we know. But the reason for separating these pieces is because we want the ecosystem to find more people interested in the domains, so that when they come with a piece of that domain for Aya, then we increase the interest of semantic interested people. So you
Yes,
see,
so
I see as two, these are independent in themselves because they belong to different domains. And they are related, intra-related within Aya because they are constituents of Aya.
I'm not sure, maybe this is too technical of an answer, but so 2 things. That is one why I think these 3 small ontologies that are used by Aya but are not a part of Aya, these 3 should be hosted independently. So instead of hosting them as part of the Aya ontology, we should host them independently. So that's one thing. That means they are independently discoverable. The second thing is if we can, for example, register these contexts with JSON LD. So register the infocom context with JSON LD as an ontology specific for the discipline or the domain of information communication. And then for impact accounting, we register the domain of impact ontology or whatever you want to call it, impact ont, with JSON LD as specific to, and the same for the claim. We register this with the namespace with JSON LD and say that it belongs to the domain of describing claims and the substantiation. That is one way I think we can make these ontologies discoverable, I would say, more discoverable and available to people in those domains who not necessarily know anything about like anthropogenic impact accounting. I'm not sure if that.
Can I just add something? I think
Yes.
Alfonso mentioned, how do you describe the relationship between this ontology and the domain to which it belongs? I think the technical answer is there in line 12, is that typically in some of these developed ontologies, there's about a page of Russian description what this ontology is and what it does and why it is like it is. So you can use that description of let's say of the claim ontology now in this case, that you can describe why there is a claim ontology, what it encompasses, what is outside, what is inside, what are its relations and so forth. You typically would do that in that in that description term of, that describes the ontology itself. And if you look at some of the, let's say some of the established ontologies, some of them go into quite a bit of detail describing what this is, and the basic concepts, and they have a little bit of a write-up around that. So I think that is one of the answers to your question. They are independent. How do they relate to a specific domain? That is where you describe.
Okay. So thank you both. What you're saying is we register those, let's call this 3 independent ontologies as components of Aya. Okay. And those components might be registered by themselves, and it might be linked, the component, to its domain by line 12 in the description that Christian is suggesting. Fine. I think that answered those questions of mine. Now, next question is, when we create that file, how do we engage positively the people from that domain ecosystem? And what I mean by engaging them positively is, how do we avoid being entangled in an endless discussion of something else of the domain that does not relate to Aya? So it's very good to be clear that Aya has components. It's very good to have those components related to domains. But how do we learn from the domains and do not exhaust ourselves fighting? And that's what happened with standard bodies. Now, everybody's fighting for little turfs. Okay. I was going to be vulgar and change turfs to turds. Change the F for a D. Okay. Which is what happens in this corporate bodies. But you know what is worrying me, and
No,
those
I
confusions.
think I see your point. I think I see your point. I took some time, but I think I can see where this is heading, and yeah, I think it took me a while to get that point. I'm conscious of time. I have to run, but maybe I can say something about that. I think the short answer, it's a good point that deserves deep contemplation, because I mean, I don't want to have a Tuesday and a Wednesday and a Thursday and a Friday meeting to talk about ontologies if I can help. Especially about stuff I'm not so interested in.
Those are the worries that confuse me.
Yes.
The intention is quite good, and I approve and I support.
I think version control, in the sense that we use this version, Aya uses this version of the claim ontology, and we must just be clear that where that is hosted, we use that URL. If people want to take this and go and run with it, we'll incorporate on our time. But I think because it uses a very definite, like in that, what do you call that first step, that almost, I call it a header, but it's not a header, that that definition step, you reference a very specific URL, and we must then just be clear what versions Aya uses of these things, in a certain, and also maybe even in the description, these things are intended to remain stable over a long time. They are not for, they are, maybe we should, I mean, people can do what they want in open source. You can do what you want, but I think we should make our intentions clear of using this version stably over a long time, and the way that we technically handle that is by that. I mean, there's only one URL that thing comes from, and that is that one. And that's how we. Okay.
Thank you, guys. I just
Okay.
wanted to report something very quick.
Sure, please.
The guys from Google that contacted me because of the course that I took, they were just commercial guys.
Okay.
It made no sense to talk anything conceptual with them. They wanted to know how much do I want to spend in the cloud.
Oh my word. No.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Well, I don't know yet. Whenever I know, I'll contact you. I'll
Be
keep
sure
you
to
in
contact-
mind.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Understood.
But just
Okay.
to
Thanks.
report.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. See you guys. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right,
Thank you,
thanks.
Alex. Christian.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.